Hello and welcome to the Ghost Quarter. On today's episode of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway, Warhammer Age of Sigmar. I'm going to be doing this kit, specifically taking it apart, opening it, showing you what's inside, and then actually painting up the miniatures involved thereof. So this kit is for Warhammer, specifically the Age of Sigmar. It's a setting within the Warhammer40k universe, more of the fantasy version of Warhammer, which I know you can't really see it very well. I apologize. I'll bring it over and show you in a little bit. But what you get in this kit is 3 miniatures. They come on a sprue. This is what's called a sprue. You get a brush, a basic plain Jane starter brush, 6 different colors, and 3 bases. And instructions on the back of the box in case you didn't notice. Now, that being said, I've been painting miniatures for about 5 years or so, and there's a few things you kind of need and or would help doing this that you don't get with this kit if you just get this kit as like a gift or you buy it thinking it has everything you need. You're going to need something to put some water in. It doesn't have to be as fancy as this, but it needs to be something like you can dip your brush in, stir it around, and you're good. Pro tip, remember to change your water out frequently. Once it starts getting a little too pigmented, you're better off just dumping it and getting clean water. Something else this kit doesn't come with is a pair of cutters. You need something to get the sprue, the items off the sprue. That is something you need to do. You can't just ignore it and think, oh, well, I'll just snap this off, because you're not snapping this off. It's on there, and if you try and snap it off, you're going to break something. And then you're going to ruin a miniature that you could have very easily just went snip, 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 so why do that? Also, if you're looking to make it look really, really, really presentable, something like a sanding stick. In this case, I have some Revlon light fingernail scratchers. It's one of those things where it's not incredibly abrasive, but it's abrasive enough that it'll allow you to clean up the mold lines once you get them off the sprue. So you cut it and it leaves a little bit of a mark on there, and when you go to paint it, it's going to leave raised edges, and people will notice that. So it's better to just sand it down gently so you're not sanding away details you didn't intend to sand away, and you get a better finished product when you're done. I will say that the starter brush probably, I'm not impressed just looking at this starter brush. I know it's synthetic, I get it. It's not going to be like a Kolinsky or a Sable, not Sable. There's a very, very specific word that I'm looking for here, and it's not coming to me. This video is off the cuff. I don't have a prompter off to the side. But anyway, as I was saying, there's a very specific masterclass brush that uses very specific hairs. Anyway, I'm going to be roasted alive in the comment section on that one, but can't be helped. Anyway, I don't have a lot of high hopes for this brush. My recommendation is, if you do buy a kit like this, the first thing you should probably upgrade is get a basing brush, or get a basing brush, a layering brush, and a detail brush. It's not that expensive, and it'll massively improve what you're doing. Starter brushes are literally just that. It's kind of an all-around. It can be used for everything because you kind of have to, but it's not like my first go-to. It's like, I like a brush for a specific thing. If you can't tell, I like brushes. I have a few brushes. If I looked around hard enough, I'm pretty sure... Okay. Wait, hold on. Yeah, no, wait, hold on. I'm pretty sure I got a couple more in there. Not sure what the paper is, but... no, wait, there's one down there. brush there. I feel something kind of weird. I pulled a brush out of my ass. Anyway, I'm going to be going over the painting of this process. It's one of those things where I'm pretty confident I can show you a few things if you're brand new to painting miniatures. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up, and we'll go ahead and start doing the thing here in just a minute. Right, so this is the set I was talking about, Warhammer Age of Sigmar. We're going to go ahead and paint this up is what we're going to do. But anyway, this is used for removing mold lines and cleaning up the pieces so that when you paint it, it looks better. Now, when you're using a pair of clippers like this, you want to make sure this flat end is the piece that's up, this flat end right here is the piece that's up against the piece you're cutting off. So for example here, let's take this piece right here for a good example. You want to make sure that you have a good clean, there we go, good clean cut, and go from there. Just when you hear the snap, it's probably cut clean through. And this one's being stubborn, cool. Alright. Make sure to drop the piece you're trying to cut off. It really helps when you're trying to paint something. I find the more you drop the model, the better. I'm joking, don't actually do that. But anyway, you'll see even here that the piece that I cut off, it doesn't look so good. Especially right here. That's where it was attached. Let me see if I can get that to... There we go. Yeah, I'm sure you can see what I'm talking about. If you can't, let me zoom in just a little. So when you cut a piece off, it's going to be marred by that. But you can fix that real easily with the... Where'd that even go? How did that disappear? How did I lose? Alright, fine. I know I got more of those. Come prepared. Always come prepared with extras because you will lose the tools you've come with somehow, somewhere. I don't think it's underneath this, but nope. Anyway. Yeah, maybe that's a little too aggressive. But it's all I've got at the moment, so I guess it's just gonna have to work. Why I did that was so I could actually see the model cleaned up just a little. Yeah, I mean, it leaves small marks, but you're not going to see that under a layer of paint. I mean, there's no way. Yeah, I think I think this one is the way to go. Because it's aggressive, but it's not super aggressive, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Maybe use a slightly less aggressive form of remover. Anyway, you're not going to miss much. I'm going to just take this all off and go ahead and put these miniatures together. They're just snap fit, meaning these just snap together. You don't have to use hobby glue, which is really handy because sometimes when you're trying to put a bunch of miniatures together, you have to wait for the glue to dry, which isn't a big deal, especially if you use an accelerator. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get these completely out and, you know, sanded down is the words I'm looking for. Again, I'm very tired. So I'll catch y'all shortly. Okay, so I've got the 3 miniatures done. Oh, okay. I forgot this one little thing down here. It's like a bone or something. I forgot one thing, but at this point I'm ready to start painting, for the most part. Though, when I was doing this, I did kind of have a thought. You know, they're always talking about flow and control and blah, 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 blah when you're painting. And beings as I've been doing, you know, miniatures for over 5 years at this point, I kind of had a thought. Like the Reaper Bones Company, they will tell you, hey, before you get too carried away, why don't you... Whoop, okay. Why don't you clean the miniature first? Make sure that it's, you know, nice and ready for priming. And my thoughts on that is, you know, that's not a bad idea, but also, shouldn't you do that with the Citadel miniatures as well, if that's the case? And that's what kind of caught my attention. It's like, wait, no, hold on, shouldn't I clean this to get the mold release off before I do anything? And that's kind of where I stopped and was like, wait. So I did actually go out of my way to clean the darn thing. Because I was like, I want to make sure that if I'm going to take the time to paint this, it looks good. Speaking of looking good, I'm not making this look like I know what I'm doing at all. I have never put this set together before, so I'm just kind of winging it as I go along. And I realized as I was putting that in there, it was in the wrong spot. Yeah. You know, most people would cut this and not use this clip. I'm going to use the clip in its entirety because it's funny to me. I like that. You know, it's not very often I get funny clips to me. Yeah, there we go. So you might be noticing I'm leaving the shields off. The reason why is simply I want to get the base coat of these done, and I want to paint the shield separately. The reason why is simply easier access. I can paint the front side, I can paint the back side, and then I can put this to that, and I don't have to worry about, you know, trying to get around the shield or get the back of the shield perfect. No, it's just easier this way. I can do one side of the shield, flip it over after one side's dried, immediately hit the other side, get that side base coated, get this whole thing base coated, and then there's no missing spots. Because if you put this on here, you know, like this, and you try and paint it, it's a colossal pain to try and get around the details. A picture trying to paint that. Not to mention, you know the shield will come off. You know it's going to come off if you don't glue it on. So I suppose it's one thing if you're gluing the miniature together, because if you glue it and it is on there and it's not going to come off, that's one thing, because you can just paint around it and it's probably going to be okay. Me personally, where these are going to be used as, this is Warhammer, this is what this looks like when you've painted it up and you follow the directions. Legitimately, that's partially why I'm only using the starter brush kit, is because I want to see what it would look like if a customer was to do this themselves. Granted, I'm not your typical customer at that point, because I've been doing this for 5 years. I kind of know what I'm doing. This is intended for somebody who's never picked up a brush in their life. So it's a little unfair, but it's also true. Anyway, I'm not going to subject you to me painting these live on camera. I'm going to actually cut again. I'll come back when they're base coated and I'll go from there. Okay, sorry about the sound of the heater on. The reason why it's on is because it's literally 60 degrees in here and I'm kind of freezing. So here's where we're at currently. I just kind of slapped a general base coat of Retributor armor on there, and there's going to be some spots that I missed, and I understand I'm going to miss some spots, or some areas are going to be a little thin in terms of this base coat. The problem is this base coat takes a while to dry. It's a little bit longer to dry than your regular base coat. So what ended up happening was I would look at a spot and go, hey, this is kind of thin. I should probably put a little bit more on here. Or I'll just straight up miss a spot, on like the top of the Warhammer here. But, the point was I just kind of got paint on there. That's what I was doing this time around. I wasn't trying to go for perfect, a mirror finish, blah, 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 blah. This isn't the time for that. I don't even have my good brushes. I mean, I have my good brushes, I'm just not allowed to use them. Everything I've done has been with this starter Warhammer brush. Not a fan of this brush. I don't like it. It's not very friendly, And I'm going to tell you a few things that I've learned using this brush. Number one, I can't keep this thing clean. I tried real hard. I was constantly cleaning my brush, constantly putting it in there. Truth be told, I got most of it out, but every time I would think, okay, well, I can get this to a point, which I kind of can, it's not friendly. Especially when I first started using this brush. There was a couple of strands I had to cut off with my cutter tool, because I'm just like, I know how this works. I've done this long enough to know if I leave those, it's going to get paint on the end of them, and I'm going to be going do-do-do-do-do-do, and it's going to go paint something I don't want it to paint in a color I don't want it to color. So I'm like, I'm just going to nip that in the bud right now. Anyway, it's late and my phone's dying, so I probably should go. I think I'm going to just make this its own video. I'm just going to do this in parts, probably, because this is going to take way too long, and it's going to be way too long of a video otherwise. And then I might make a super cut of this at the end. So, thank you for watching. I hope you've liked the video thus far. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because you don't want to miss what I've got coming up next.